One of the more valuable things I think we do in this course, at least for most folks, is the practicing translating ordinary language statements into standard form categorical propositions. I think this work is particularly useful for most folks because it allows us to get better and better at figuring out exactly what it is that we're being told, and then figuring out ways to reframe the meaning of that into standard form categorical statements that we can then apply the principles and operations of categorical logic to. So if you're going into a discipline that is going to require you to have some pretty tip-top interpretation skills and strong communication skills, like a lawyer or a therapist, this is the kind of work in our course that's really going to benefit you. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and do some translating. So you have here on your screen 3 statements. Not every person is a great kisser. In fact, only a few people really know how to kiss. There's no such thing as a selfish person who's a good kisser. All right, now when we say we're going to translate these into standard form, what we mean is we're going to figure out a way to express the meaning of each of these 3 statements as an A, E, I, or O statement. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and pause your video and take a shot at translating these. A really good way to begin translating, by the way, is to ask yourself whether or not the statement you're considering is telling you about all of something, because that's probably going to require an A or an E statement. Or is the statement telling you about some number fewer than all of them? Because that'll probably require an I or an O statement. All right, so why don't you go ahead and pause your video, and when you're ready to check your work, go ahead and fire it back up. All right, let's see what you have here. Not every person is a great kisser. That's telling me that some people are not great kissers. Okay? In fact, only a few people really know how to kiss. Okay, so some people are people who know how to kiss. Now, I know this sounds kind of goofy, but we want to make sure that we've got some sort of words or phrases that constitute a noun or a noun phrase that we can count. Okay, so we're going to plural nouns and nouns phrases to be the terms, the subject and predicate terms of our statement. So hopefully you have something along those lines. You just want to make sure your predicate term in your translation is a countable thing. And then there's no such thing as a selfish person who's a good kisser. It can be translated 2 ways. One, we could use an E statement. No selfish people are good kissers, right? Because there's no such thing as a selfish person who's a good kisser. So one way to do that is as an E statement. Or we can do this as an A statement. All selfish people are bad kissers. All right. The thing you wouldn't want to do, though, is translate that statement as a statement like this one. All selfish people are not good kissers. Okay? This is a common thing that trips people up. They look at this and they think, well, I just want to say all or not because there's no such thing as a selfish person who's a good kisser. But remember, we've got these 4 standard form categorical statement forms that we can work with. All X are Y, no X are Y, some X are Y, some X are not Y, but we don't have all X are not Y, okay? So here's a note worth writing down. Anytime you find yourself wanting to translate a statement into the form all X are not Y, what you really want is an E statement, no, or an O statement, some are not. And which one of those you'll want to use is going to depend on what it is that you're trying to communicate. All right, let's do one more. This one's trickier. Looks simpler, but it's actually trickier. Cats make good pets. They never complain. Most of the time, they just lay around. Now, there's a couple things that make this trickier than the last one. One is, in that first statement, how many cats are being referred to? Is this going to be an all, no, or some statement? And what makes the next 2 statements, even trickier than that, is that they involve time, right? They never complain. Most of the time, they just lay around. Okay, so you still have just these 4 standard form categorical statement forms to work with, and you've got to figure out a way to get as much of that original meaning translated into one of these 4 forms without losing any essential meaning. All right, so why don't you go ahead and pause your video, and when you're ready to take a look at your work, go ahead and restart it. All right, let's see how you did this. Cats make good pets. Now, there's sometimes people are going to say statements like this to you, and you're going to have to interpret what you think is the most logical interpretation of what's being said. If I tell you something like dogs are canines, am I saying all dogs are canines or some dogs are canines? And I would say I'm saying all dogs are canines. On the other hand, if I said, oh, there's birds in the backyard right now, I'm not saying that every bird that exists, that all birds are in my backyard right now. I'm just saying some birds are in the backyard right now. So when you look at cats make good pets, you might have interpreted this as all cats are good pets. I think it's more likely that when somebody makes a statement like this, they're not making a claim about every single cat that exists, that they would allow for some exceptions, that some cats aren't good pets, okay? So I think the most reasonable interpretation of this statement, cats make good pets, is some cats are good pets. All right, they never complain. This one's trickier, okay? Probably the best interpretation of this is no times or times cats complain. And yes, I know that sounds goofy and clunky and artificial, but it expresses they never complain as a standard form categorical statement, and it retains the element of time that's implied by the word never. So you might have come up with something like no cats are complainers, and I get it. I mean, that works. It's not that that's inaccurate. It's just that it's lost that element of time, okay? Same thing then with most of the time they just lay around. We're going to want to say sometimes or times cats lay around. And yes, again, I know this sounds goofy, but we are retaining more of the meaning of the statement by using this time and times cats lay around. We're retaining more of the meaning than we would if we chose to interpret it in a way that didn't refer to time. All right. So what I'm talking about here right now are called parameters, and chapter 2.17 of your course text has more information on this. I should have moved that chapter up earlier in chapter 2. But if you're interested in learning more about parameters, because we're going to be using them all semester long, you can go ahead and take a peek at chapter 2.17.